Thank you very much, Ashley and Kendra. That was a beautiful introduction to the day. And yes, I think you've said it perfectly. There is so much knowledge on your side of the room that I feel like I might be stealing a bit too much time being on my side of the stage. But during the day, you'll have time to exchange, you'll have time to discover, you'll have time to share your experiences and expertise with each other, and hopefully we'll provide you with the right venues to do all of that. So thank you very much to all of you for being here on that great day of vision and of engagement. And to introduce myself, my name is Roman, and I am the freshly arrived, a few months ago, Chief Executive Officer here at Akeneo. I actually don't come from the product experience management, PXM space itself. I used to work in a slightly different space, but very connected to it. 2 letters, AI, artificial intelligence. I've spent more than 20 years working in the data and AI space. 20 years doing that. Yes, it does mean that I was doing it before AI was cool. I think AI is cool now. It has actually changed the way I introduce myself to English speakers. I have a very, very French first name, Romain. So I used to explain that my first name was like Romain the letters, but without any. Now I can say it's actually like Roman the Empire, but with AI in it. You know, that's how much cooler that is. 20 years, didn't change my first name, but close enough. I've had the opportunity to work with companies across all industries on AI. I've worked with banks looking to segment their customers. I've worked with aerospace companies looking to predict maintenance of aircraft engines. I've worked with, actually, the first generative AI application that I saw in production was in the PXM space. It was a big US fashion retailer that a few months after the release of OpenAI's ChatGPT's API, used it to streamline generation of its copywriting on its website. So, with so much experience behind me, when I joined Akeneo, I was pretty convinced I knew everything about what was going to happen with AI plus PXM. I'd been doing that for 20 years, so yes, there were big changes, but ultimately it was fairly easy to figure out. PXM requires a lot of tedious manual work around how you're going to be managing your data, how you're going to be doing your copywriting. This can be extremely accelerated with GenAI, making translations easier, very efficient for it, validation of the data that you might have, even image edition, or all things that are tedious, take a lot of time, and that can be extremely accelerated with the use of AI. And all of this allows teams using AI to increase their productivity, to work on a broader catalog, be able to go deeper, facilitate the changes that are necessary to increase your conversion rates, to increase customer satisfaction, to lower the risk of returns by providing better and more thorough information to your customers. So yes, the use of AI productivity features like this is actually now pervasive in Akeneo. And during the day, you will see a lot of such features. You've seen a lot of them already released. I think there's not a week that goes by without such a feature being released. And there is a lot more to come. So yes, I was convinced I had figured it out. I was extremely far from the reality. And I think I was missing the forest for the tree. If AI is a wave, I was kind of missing the groundswell for the wave itself. What kind of groundswell? Well, it's just that spending a bit of time in that space, and I realized that the biggest change that is coming is not the change that we are going to be doing in our own software to make users more efficient and to increase the overall productivity. The biggest change that is coming is the change in the consumer behaviors themselves. Buying always starts with an intent. It starts with a pain. It starts with a need that you're looking to solve for. And as of today, when you wanted to actually address that intent through purchasing, through digital experience, you actually needed to live through the constraints of the system, the biggest constraint being needed to know how to describe a solution to your need through keywords. So yourself finding a solution and convert that into a keyword that you can use. Typically, an example, I have an old wooden coffee table at home, and I want to renovate it. So I think, okay, how do I do that? Maybe I look a bit online, and I need a power sander, and I need some sandpaper, some grid paper of a specific size. So, okay, this is what I need. I'm going to search, and then potentially I'm going to end up with the right product, and I'm going to make my purchase. With the rise of generative AI and conversational AI, you don't have to do all that complicated dance to actually fit within the requirements of the technology of working through keywords. You're able to express your intent go on ChatGPT, say, I'm looking to renovate a wooden coffee table, and it will guide you conversationally to your solution. You're not anymore coming with your own solution expressed in keywords, and then finding a product. You're coming with your problem, with your intents, and ultimately getting the products that you need. This is a complete change in paradigm in how consumers are actually looking and driving to the information that they need on their product. It's already there. I mean, we've seen over the past few months lots of releases on the topic. Perplexity.ai, the big GenAI search engine, released its shopping function at the end of last year. Amazon not only released its Rufus personal shopper, but ultimately put it on top of the page during Black Friday. I mean, the most expensive piece of web real estate, the top of the Amazon page was where the personal shopper has been placed. And OpenAI, of course, has released different studies, typically what they did with that and do on the increase, the improvement in the customer experience and ultimately conversion rates that can be brought by leveraging generative AI, not just as a feature for productivity, but a full user experience. And I'm saying it's a groundswell and not a wave, but I might be underestimating it. I think it's more than just a groundswell. I think it's a tidal wave, it's a tsunami. Why is that? Because it's not just about building new things and new ways to interact. It's also potentially redefining the whole of the way we're working so far. Because yes, if we're moving from keyword to intents, we need to realize that keyword is at the heart of how we interact today with our consumers, our potential consumers. SEO is all about the keywords. But if you're not searching on Google anymore, but you start on a generative AI engine, how do you do anything that remotely looks like SEO? Site search, another cornerstone of how we actually drive the consumer behavior and funnel. If you don't have site search anymore, if you're actually directly interacting with a personal shopper, you don't have site search anymore. You don't have category navigation anymore. You actually guide the consumer to where they need to be. And even the product page itself. Today, the product page is ultimately extremely keyword-based. Why is that? Well, because we list as nicely as possible on the product page all of the characteristics of the product we put in front of our consumers. But not all of these characteristics are relevant to everyone. When I have an intent, there are specific characteristics of the products that are relevant to me. So with the new technologies, you can actually personalize live the content to make sure that a potential buyer will see the things that are relevant to them. Hyper-personalization of product information is completely different from the way we think about the product page. So the cornerstones of the way we operate today, SEO, site search, and product page, are probably going to be turned completely around and completely redefined by the way GenAI is being used. And what I'm painting here is not a distant future landscape. This study by Capgemini states that 71% of consumers already want GenAI integrated in their shopping experience. 71%. ChatGPT has announced, OpenAI, that they want to have more than 1 billion weekly unique users by the end of the year. It's about consumers, about technology, but even within organizations, 74% of CEOs admit they will lose their job within 2 years if they do not deliver AI business gain. That's scary. It's a redefinition of the whole of the way that we operate, driven by the changes in technology, and that's not happening in 5 years or 10 years, but that is happening right now. And there's a very natural way to react to a change that is as profound as this one. And the reaction is actually just to brace. You know, it's scary. You see that much change coming that fast at you. You see a wave that big coming in your direction. You know, just stay on the ground, put your life vest, and see what's going to happen. And don't look under your seats. You don't have life vest under your seats, just to make sure, you know, that's the case. And the exits are there and there, just in case. It's a business imperative that is coming at us at a speed that we've probably never seen in our industries. I'm not going to leave you hanging there. You know, there is a message of relief that comes here, a message of calm. Maybe yes, we should be anxious, but we should also understand that there are good news. The first good news is the technology is there and it's available and it's democratized. You can access these technologies. There are providers. There's not a week or a month without new revelations on the LLMs, foundational models that are there, new services being released. So all of us and all of your companies can actually leverage the AI technologies that can power these new user experiences. The second good news, and the most important one in my view, is there is one class of people on which depends the success of these initiatives. One class of people who actually own the success of that transformation. And that class of people, it's you in the room. It's all of you here. Why do I say that? Well, I don't have a crystal ball as to which week, which day of the month, or which quarter the changes of AI are going to be completely changing the consumer behavior. I know it's coming, don't know exactly when, if it's in 6 months or 18 months. I don't have a crystal ball to know exactly by what it's going to start, but I do have the experience to know exactly what it is dependent on. And it's dependent on something very simple. You cannot do AI if you don't have the right data. This is a quote from Ali Ghoddi, the CEO of Databricks, big AI company. The dirty secret of AI is that the hardest part is the data. It's not the technology, it's the data itself. And trust my 20 years of experience on the topic, I have never started a project that didn't go with, yeah, but my data is not good enough to be able to do that. And it's not just about Romain Fouache or Ali Ghoddi. Internet is getting on board with that. You don't have a week without a new meme on why AI without data is just crap. Even Homer Simpson is aligned with me. You know, that's to say how many concordant voices we might have. So yes, that's the big learning on AI is you need to have the right data to be able to power it. Data is the precursor of the success with AI. But if ultimately what we want to do is to generate revenue with AI, to generate top line, the precursor is product data. You cannot generate AI revenue if you don't have the right product data to fit it in. What do I say by the right product data? I mean, you are the ones who've been working for years on making sure that the right product data is available. It needs to be data that's comprehensive. We want to be able to capture all of the potential intents of the customers. We want to be able to match product with all of these intents. So you need to have data that is comprehensive and able to capture all of the facets of intents that are possible. You need to have data that's structured so that you're going to be able to feed it into your existing systems and the future systems so that the personal shopper, the Gen AI engines can actually properly digest your information to be able to match it to the consumer intents. It needs to be trusted. Because we can talk all day long about AI hallucinating and making things up. If you feed it wrong data, it's just going to give you wrong results. In best case, it's actually going to hallucinate something that's true, not something you're going to rely on. And last but not least, in my view, the most important one, it needs to be as alive as your business. Because ultimately, your product data is going to be the direct connection to your market, to your consumers, to your suppliers. And this is changing on a daily basis. Even more these days, actually, I think this is changing on an hourly basis. And it's an extremely difficult thing to do, to find that balance so that your data can actually live with your business. Why is that? It's, well, even the place to start. You need to have data that's trusted, that's governed, that's something that's IT validated. But at the same time, you need to have data that has business sense and has the agility to evolve with the way you operate. You need to be able to onboard and to offboard suppliers. That's going to have data in many different shapes and forms that you need to be able to manage. And, you know, especially in this day and age, you might need to be able to change extremely fast your suppliers because there's new tariff in one place or in another, and you need to be able to adjust to that change. The different places you're going to be pushing that data. It's going to change, if not on a daily basis, potentially on a weekly or on a monthly basis. We discussed it before. Is it going to be new AI agents, your websites, the direct sales force that you have? You need to balance all of that information with what you can get from our manufacturing systems to where you want to sell. New distributors, new countries. There again, different constraints on the way you shape your data, on the way you're going to interconnect all of these systems. Regulations. Seeing large amount of regulations on the information you need to share, on the information you need to control, and last but not least, customer signals. No one knows your product better than the people who use it, and being able to capture that information is also essential to ensure that you have product data that's comprehensive, trusted, structured, and as alive as your business. And this is probably the biggest hurdle when it comes to preparing for AI is that you need to be able to balance all of these elements together. You need to be able to adjust the data from your suppliers all the way to distributors with the agility your marketing requires, but the governance, the IT is there. Understand what are the new users coming from the customers that you need to be able to capture, all the while matching regulations and capturing information from your manufacturing systems. That's a lot of things to juggle together. And that's actually, as it stands, not possible to be able to do all of that, or it would be done. And ultimately, I think this is where the biggest change from AI is coming for us. The change in user experience, yes, it's there, it's coming for our consumers. The change in productivity, translations, copywriting, and the rest, yeah, we have it, and it's going to be great, it's going to make our life easier. But the real change is leveraging AI to actually create that agility among all of the system, so that ultimately you're not stuck with the constraints of having to change and to reconnect every time, but you leverage the strength of AI to create that link between all of the data constraints that you have, so that you can have data that lives with your business and provides you with the agility to adjust to the changes we're seeing and you need to drive in your day-to-day. So ultimately, yes, we chose as the theme for today, Brace for AI, because it's always good to have something that's a bit scary, a bit of anxiety. You know, you sell better with anxiety, fear of missing out, and the rest. But my belief, our belief, is that the best way to be ready for AI, to be ready for the tidal wave that is coming and is basically already here, is not to brace. It's not to be scared. It's not to hold to yourself as tightly as possible while you wait for the wave to come your direction. It's to do the opposite. This is a wave of tremendous power and energy. And as I hope you've understood from what I've shared this morning, you own the success of what can happen from it. And if you leverage it the right way, it's not anymore about being scared. It's not anymore about bracing. It's about leveraging every ounce of energy you can find in a wave. It's about making sure that you can convert what seems like a scary wall of water as the best ride you've ever had in your life. And I think this is what we can do. This is what you can do in your roles, owning the product data and product information. And this is what we're here to support you with. That's what I wanted to share this morning. Thank you very much for your attention. And I'm now going to welcome on stage the person who does not need an introduction, Fred de Gombert, our co-founder and president.
Good morning, everyone. Really happy to be in Chicago. Thank you, Romain, for this very powerful opening keynote. So yes, this year we are in Chicago, the only city in the world when you order a pizza, you get some kind of lasagna in disguise. I'm not saying it's bad. It's not bad, but if you were asking an AI to draw you a pizza and if it was giving you that, you would probably think it's an hallucination or a beta version of an agent or something else. AI. We are going to talk a lot about AI. For those who have been following Akeneo for a few years now, you know that we usually try to avoid all the trendy topics. I think we never told you that the NFTs or the metaverse are going to change the world forever. But AI is a different beast. It's a different beast, and I think Romain explained it perfectly. But I just want you to understand how fast those changes are happening. I'm going to start with a short story that happened to us at Akeneo a year ago. About a year ago, we got an email from someone named Jay. Actually, he's in the room, so Jay, please don't be mad at me. And Jay is a CMO of a large US distributor. He's selling furniture for public organizations, and he's looking for a PIM. And so he contacts us and say, yes, I have some specific questions, some things I would like to check. We start getting on a demo, we discuss with Jay about his requirements, and we start realizing that Jay actually knows exactly what he's looking for, and already kind of have formed a strong opinion on PIM in general, but also on Akeneo we do the demo, we keep talking with Jay, and a few weeks later, Jay comes back and says, yes, I'm ready to go, and I'm ready to start the project. Wonderful, great news, we are super happy about it. But still, we felt like, wow, that went fast. And so we asked Jay, how did you come up with such a rapid conviction on Akeneo? His answer was, oh, I just asked ChatGPT. And actually what Jay did was very smart. He put all his requirements, he spent a lot of work in preparatory work to collect all these requirements. He put that into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT said, Akeneo is probably one of the best fits. And then he get on a demo to check a few things to ensure that ChatGPT was not hallucinating, and he was convinced. That was great. But I must say that I had some kind of mixed feelings when Jake said to us that he was asking ChatGPT. Because on one hand, I was super happy that ChatGPT was recommending Akeneo. But on the other hand, I didn't know why. And how. How does it work? Because I don't have the code, I don't know how to make sure that ChatGPT is going to recommend me in the future. We don't have, it's not like Google. We know how Google is working. ChatGPT, we don't. How do we influence that? And we felt like, oh, okay, so it's happening now. Because I can tell you that if it's happening for us, a software vendor, you can be sure that any of your consumer, any of your buyers did the same thing already. They are using ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, all the other agents to do their research. And we need to find a way to adapt to this. The good news is that AI is on everybody's lips. Everybody is talking about AI, and everybody seems to understand that it's a big wave. Like Romain said, 75% of CEO list AI as a top 3 priority for 2025. 30% of IT budgets in 2025 have been dedicated to AI. That's great. I love it. You know what it reminds me? It reminds me being in the early 2000s when internet is becoming a mainstream thing. 25 years ago, we were having the exact same conversation in the same type of conferences where everybody was agreeing to say internet is going to change forever the way people buy and search products. We knew it in early 2000. Like Amazon started in 1995. But what did we do with that? We had the budget, we had the understanding, we had the technology. What have we done? We have done static websites. And we had to wait for 10 years before really embracing the e-commerce revolution. Again, Amazon started in 1935. What happens? The whole industry fell behind. We cannot let that happen again because it's happening. This change is as massive as the internet and the e-commerce revolution. So we don't want that to happen. So what are we doing? What should we do? First, and it might sound a bit obvious, but we need to go back to basics. Like Romain said, there's no good AI without data. And if you want a good data, you need an enterprise-wide single source of truth. And you might tell me, Fred, that's great, but you know we are already Akeneo customers, we already have a PIM, so we already have that. Do you? How many of you can really tell today we have an omni-channel, enterprise-wide single source of truth that can fit absolutely in all of our channels, not only our e-commerce website or our print catalog, all of them? It might sound a bit provocative, but the reality is that building this enterprise-wide single source of truth is incredibly hard. It's a tough job, and it takes time. But when it's done well, it has a huge impact. Maybe you don't know this Dutch distributor called B&S. It's a very large distributor specializing in consumer goods. They sell anything from healthcare, food, liquors. They are selling across 55 countries. They have 100 different brands, hundreds of thousands of products. They have 12 different websites selling on marketplaces, on duty-free stores. It's a massive, massive business. Needless to say that creating a single source of truth in such an environment is very difficult. How they did it? They started with one division. They started with a liquors division, and they started really to put everything in place to build this single source of truth for all their channels. And it's working. It took time, but it's working. They improved by 10% their conversion rate on all their channels, not only their e-commerce website, all their channels. So great success, and now every brand at BNS is trying to roll out into the PIM project. But it's going to take some time. They know that it's going to probably take about 5 years to get all the brands inside the PIM project. It's long, it's difficult, it's complicated, but it's worth it. But the good news is that the technology we have today can help streamlining and fastening those processes. At Akeneo, we've been doing PIM projects and PXM projects for the past 12 years. We've seen a lot of them. We've probably seen more than 1,000 projects since we started. So we know what is difficult and what takes long. The first thing that takes a long time, and the biggest pitfall we've seen in PIM, is building a data model that is actually agnostic and that is going to be able to adapt to all your channels. What is happening when you start a PIM project? Usually what we see is when you start a PIM project, you really want to build this omni-channel, agnostic, that's a single source of truth. But you have to start somewhere. So you pick one channel, most of the time the e-commerce website or the print catalog or your distribution, but you pick one and you say, we're going to start here and we're going to expand. And what usually happens is that, yes, you start with the one channel, but you are so stuck into the requirements of these specific channels that your data model ends up being a dead end, and that when the time will come where you will need to use your data for other channels, it's going to be very difficult, and this is where you start seeing some silos appearing. The other department will build their own PIM or their own system for their other channels. Don't take me wrong, you have to start somewhere. Big bang projects never work. Otherwise, it's named an MDM project, and you know how it ends. Actually, we don't really know how it ends and if it ends. But it's not the solution, so you have to start somewhere. But you need to make sure that when you start thinking about your data model, you need to think about the requirements not only of one channel, but many channels. And again, it's difficult. It takes time. But AI can help here. AI can be a strong ally. I don't want to spoil too much what is going to be announced later today, but just keep that in a corner of your mind. The second main challenge we see in those projects is when you are a distributor, you have hundreds or sometimes thousands of suppliers. And each supplier is going to give you some form of product information. Some form. Very different forms. And it's always very challenging and difficult to gather all this information, to classify it, normalize it, and make sure that it's going to meet your own requirements. I'm going to give you another example. I don't know if you know Intersport. It's a very large sports retailer in Europe. Actually, I think they do have also shops in the US. They have about 700 suppliers, millions of SKUs in stores and on their e-commerce website. They have to onboard every year 1,000 new products 6 times a year. 6 times a year, 1,000 new products, a batch that they have to classify, organize, and adapt to their own taxonomy. It requires a full team of 7 people working full-time doing that. It's working, but they know that the more people they add, the more they are increasing the number of errors that are made. That's the reality. The more you scale, the more human errors are appearing. And they need to scale. They need to scale because one critical requirement for such retailer is to increase the size of their catalog. They need to increase the number of products they can sell. And so they had 2 options to do that. Either they double the size of their team, but then they're going to double the size of the errors as well, or they're going to start making some compromises on how much data they're going to ask to their suppliers. They're going to start lowering down the number of attributes they need from their suppliers, which can help to scale, but it always has an impact on the customer experience at the end of the day, which is not a good solution. You cannot make compromises on your customer experience. So they started to discuss with us. We were already their PIM, and they asked us, how can we work? How can we do that better? How can we scale? And Akeneo, you probably know that we have this tool called Supplier Data Manager, and the Supplier Data Manager actually helps them, through AI, again, to automate a lot of this work. We divided by 3 the time for them to classify and normalize the catalog coming from their suppliers, which is great, but it's not the only thing. Not only we divided by 3, but we reduce the number of errors. They were having a 10% errors margin when onboarding and classifying those things. Now they are at 5%. So AI not only automate, but improve, at the end of the day, the quality of the product information and the product experience. So it's another way to look at how AI can help here. And there's no magic into it. There's no magic in AI. It's only about automating tasks that were done before by human people. And one comment I've got pretty often when we talk about AI, and especially when we talk about content generation, you know, how do you create description? How do you create SEO content with AI? Often I've got a comment, say, Fred, you know, we are a premium brand. We cannot afford having content generated by an AI that would not meet our brand identity, our tone of voice. We cannot let an AI doing that. I would argue that it's not true. It's not true. I'm going to give you another example. Karl Lagerfeld, very famous fashion brand. They sell across 33 countries, 200 stores, 9 languages. They sell in-store, on marketplaces, and on their own website. And they needed to scale their ability to create content, translate it, localize it, and build SEO content. They had a team, and they were working with a lot of different agencies, one agency per country. It was very difficult, and it was creating a lot of inconsistencies between all their channels. So they started to think about, how can we leverage AI? And again, Karl Lagerfeld is a very premium brand. Very premium brand. They cannot afford having some poor product content, poor product descriptions. But they managed to do it. They managed to do it because they built internally a real practice around AI. They built a muscle. They built a muscle that any organization should have on how do I prompt? How do I give the right level of indication to my AI agent so I can get the right level of information and the right level of quality? And the impact, again, 5% increase in SEO traffic, 16% increase in cart additions, and a significant reduction in translation costs. Again, AI, when it's used the right way, can have a huge impact. Romain was telling us earlier this morning that there is another thing we should look at is how do you think about what your customers are telling about your products. This is a very important thing. If I'm going back to my story with Jay, we started to dig a bit into what questions Jay actually asked ChatGPT to get this recommendation. And one of them, just one of them, but one of them was that Jay was looking for a PIM that would allow him to do his taxonomy through drag and drop capabilities. It's not a capability that is displayed on our website. It's a very common thing we have, and we do not advertise it. We do not talk about it very often. So we were wondering how ChatGPT figured out that it was one thing we were doing. And so we started to do a bit of investigation and realized that actually it was one of the very regular comments we had on user reviews websites, like G2. I don't know if you are familiar with G2, but this was a thing that was coming pretty often. So okay, we felt, oh, okay. So ChatGPT is not only looking at our website, it's looking at many different sources. First good input. And we felt like, wait, but if we knew this, if we knew that people were actually looking for that type of capability, we would probably put that more visible on our own website. We would document it more, because if people are looking for it, it's probably worth talking about it. And what is true for us is also true for you and for any brand. I'm going to give you another example. Leatherman, very large US manufacturer, leader in multi-purpose scissors, knives, and accessories for professionals. They are selling mostly to professionals. One of their flagship products is a product called the Raptor Rescue. The Raptor Rescue is a very durable scissors made for emergency personnel. So really very good product. And as you can see in this video, the marketing is super clear, very well done. We know who is the target, great product, and over 1,500 positive reviews. And among those reviews, one hidden gem. This one. One review states, I work in IT, and I love the scissors for cutting all kinds of cables. Oh, wait a minute. This is not what this product has been marketed for. But yet, we have in our reviews someone telling us that actually there's an entire new market that could be a good fit for us. And the thing is that most of you would tell me, yes, we do already some user reviews analysis. But what is happening and what we see is that most of the time we don't do real user review analysis, we do sentiment analysis. We are looking at are those reviews positive or negative. And in that case, the sentiment analysis would have told you, yes, it's a positive review. But that's it. You need to go deeper. You need to really understand what people are talking about. Because if you do so, and that's what Laserman did actually. If you believe that actually there is an opportunity to sell the same product for a completely new market, if you get those keywords, those content back into your product description, you are improving the odds that if someone is asking ChatGPT, I'm in IT and I'm looking for a pair of scissors, that this product is going to be recommended. That's a closed feedback loop. And again, I know it's difficult. At Akeneo, we have just one product, and we don't even do it. So I know that having hundreds of thousands of products makes things very difficult. But again, with AI, you can automate a lot of this work. Second teaser for what is going to be announced later today. As Romain said, we are moving from keyword search to intent-based search. So user reviews is one signal that you can use, but there's many other signals. And it's going to be the last example I will give you for today. Maybe you know this brand called Havaianas, very iconic Brazilian brand selling flip-flops. Do you know how many flip-flops they are selling every year? 250 million pairs of flip-flops are sold every year. As a comparison, Puma is selling about 35 million pairs of shoes every year. It's massive. It's massive, and that means there's a lot of signals that could be analyzed here. A lot of buying signals. And Havaianas understood it. And so what they did, they know that when people are buying flip-flops, they are not looking for a specific model. They are more looking for an intent or an opportunity. I'm traveling to Saint-Tropez soon, and I want to look like a local. What do I recommend? And we know that to do that, the traditional search is not working. You don't want to have many filters, and you just want to say exactly that. So what they've done is that they added on their own e-commerce website a chatbot where you can actually do that type of search using your own natural language, which is great, and the technology is available here. So it was a very good move, very smart move, because it helps improving the customer experience. But not only it improved the customer experience, it also helped them to learn what people were exactly looking for. And if they realize that actually people are looking for Saint-Tropez as a keyword, they can bring back that keyword into their product description and make sure that it's going to be used on other platforms like Amazon. So when someone is going to ask Rufus the same exact question, the Havaianas products are going to show up. And that's how you influence those tools. Even if you do not control them, if you don't own them, one step you can do is having the similar type of capabilities on your own website to learn what your customers, what your buyers are looking for. How do they behave? It's one very smart move to better understand how eventually we're going to be able to influence and learn how this new world, it's even as a word now. We talk about GEO, which is a new search engine. You all know about SEO, right? Search engine optimization. Now we talk about GEO, generative AI engine optimization. That's a new practice. That's a new muscle we need to learn. And one way to learn it is to start doing it on your own website. So again, there is a big wave above us. There is a big opportunity. And like Romain said, we cannot wait, and we cannot just believe that it's going to move magically. There's no magic. We need to start acting now. We cannot fall behind. We cannot let another Amazon rising and take all the market. We need to change, and we need to experiment. So if there is one thing I want you to remember from my small presentation is, let's do some experiments. Let's try things. Let's take care of our product data and use it, leverage it as much as we can to try to anticipate what is going to happen. And if you do not trust me, maybe you will trust someone who actually is an expert in that field. And that's why I'm really happy to introduce on stage our next speaker.